We've been seeing a lot of 50 Cent heading towards Jim Jones having some issues when it comes to the landlord of this property.
The rivalry between 50 Cent and Jim Jones has escalated to unprecedented heights. After Jones publicly criticized 50 Cent's documentary project, 50 responded by exposing Jones for outstanding rent obligations and releasing surveillance footage of him forcibly entering his own studio. The situation then took a physical turn when Jones arrived at the studio premises. Let us examine how events unfolded. The lockout, what actually transpired. Jim Jones arrived at his studio in the Bronx on February 19, 2026, only to find the building completely unresponsive. The lights were off, the locks had been changed, and his key no longer worked. So he took matters into his own hands. He kicked the door in. That same night, approximately 7 hours later, 50 Cent had uploaded the footage to Instagram for the entire internet to consume.
To the video, and I want you guys to take notice of the date.
The security camera footage was remarkably clear. A narrow hallway, sharp resolution. On the audio, a voice can be heard stating that the power had been cut. Then Jim Jones walks into frame, approaches a locked studio door, and begins attempting to force it open with his foot.
Jim, because he don't like that. What you talking about?
He cut the lights on. You're not supposed to, you heard Jim? He cut the lights on.
The first door held firm. Jones continued his efforts. He then moved to the second door, kicked it cleanly off its hinges, and walked through with 2 associates following closely behind.
Has kicked the door off the hinges. Jim, I'm with you. What are you saying? You ain't skipping no leg day. This door was just unpenetrable, this first one.
The entire incident lasted under a minute. By the time the morning audience logged online, the clip had already circulated across the internet twice over. 50 Cent released the footage roughly 7 hours after it was recorded. And he did not simply post the video, he posted the documentation as well. A photograph of the actual lease termination notice, a legal document addressed to Joseph Jones, Jim Jones's legal name, and IFC Management LLC. 2 default notices, both expired. No room for dispute.
50 also posts the company that says they did put a notice that Jim Jones was evicted. And the eviction notice actually says this. It's from IFC Management LLC to Joseph Jones.
The documentation revealed a 15-day notice of default dated January 5, 2026, with an expiration date of January 22nd. When that notice received no response, a 5-day termination notice was issued on February 10th, expiring February 17th. Jones arrived with his associates 2 days after that final deadline had passed, February 19th, only to find locked doors and no electricity.
Served with a 15-day notice of default, dated January 5th, 2026, which expired on January 22nd, 2026, okay? A 5-day notice of termination, dated February 10th, which also expired on February 17th. The tenancy at the premise has been terminated.
The building in question was known as the IFC Factory, Intellectual Factory of Content. Jones had signed the lease in December 2025 with ambitious plans to convert the space into a multi-purpose complex, a soundstage, a gymnasium, a barbershop, and a bodega. The vision was to transform it into a content hub for the Let's Rap About It podcast, which he co-hosts with Mano, Fabulous, and Dave East. Just 2 months after signing, he found himself in the hallway attempting to kick his way back inside.
Jimmy! Jim, what is this? Jim! Oh no. Yo, the memes about Jim missing leg day.
50 Cent's caption accompanying the surveillance footage read, "Damn, bro. This wouldn't happen if we was friends. Wanna be friends? I don't know. Let's rap about it." Whoa. That caption reveals everything about 50 Cent's mindset. No anger, no threats, simply a man sitting back, observing the chaos he orchestrated, and laughing at the screen. What made this moment land with such devastating impact was not merely that the footage showed a man locked out of a building. It dismantled the entire narrative Jones had been constructing publicly. The IFC factory was not simply a lease agreement. Jones had been documenting the construction on Instagram, showcasing the gym, the barbershop, the bodega. He was selling a vision. He was the boss with a building. Now, that very building was dark on camera, and he was in the hallway kicking doors like someone who had been shut out of his own operation after exhausting his landlord's patience. 50 Cent recognized all of this. He understood that posting the footage was not merely ridiculing Jones for being locked out, it was systematically dismantling the entire persona Jones had attached to that space. Every construction update, every behind-the-scenes video, every "I'm building something for the culture" post Jones had ever published about the IFC factory became the punchline. The building he was supposed to represent was now the building he could not even access. However, the lockout was not the opening move. It was the closing one. To understand how Jim Jones ended up kicking doors in a darkened hallway, one must return to December, and to a podcast episode where 4 grown men decided to take aim at a Netflix documentary. In December 2025, the Let's Rap About It crew was inside the IFC factory recording their commentary on 50 Cent's Netflix docuseries. They dismissed it as a mockumentary. They ridiculed the tone. They questioned the production quality. They characterized 50 Cent's work as something embarrassing. From the outside, it appeared to be routine podcast discourse for opinionated individuals offering their assessment of a project. The kind of commentary that cycles through the internet weekly and dissipates by Friday. But this was not some arbitrary project. 50 Cent had executive produced that docuseries. It bore his name, represented his work, and these individuals had chosen to sit in a building they could barely afford to lease and criticize it on camera. 50 Cent did not call in to debate. He did not release a diss track. He went digging. He took to Instagram with audio from a phone conversation with the building's landlord, a man he referred to as Sam. On the recording, Sam could be heard expressing frustration about unpaid rent connected to the podcast's lease at the IFC factory. 50 Cent captioned the post, labeling the entire crew as squatters, and publicly announced that these individuals were behind on their financial obligations.
50 kind of hit them with a jab. You notice their tone changed when 50 said, "Y'all owe $250,000 in rent." They try to play it off.
The figures 50 Cent cited were substantial. His posts referenced arrears ranging from $80,000 to $180,000 under the original lease terms, with subsequent posts pushing the total figure to approximately $250,000 for the full studio space. Beyond that, he began alluding to a broader deal, stating that he was exploring the acquisition of the entire building along with a 50% ownership stake in the Let's Rap About It podcast.
Came back and said, "Yo, I got them to pay that money to the man. The man even offered me part of their podcast."
The crew attempted to dismiss the claims, insisting the numbers were fabricated and that everything was in order. Then, in what appeared to be a moment of concession, 50 Cent posted that Jim Jones had wired $200,000 to settle the outstanding balance. His caption read, "So Jim wired the $200K over. He may turn out to be a good tenant after all. Samuel, if you need me to make them pay, just give me a ring. I'm here."
Cent claims Jim Jones sent in $200,000, which I'm impressed. I didn't know Jim Jones had $200K. After accusing the podcast crew of being squatters and owing $250,000 back rent.
But paying the landlord did not deter 50 Cent. He remained relentless. He subsequently posted footage of the studio losing power mid-session. The entire crew captured on camera, phones out, flashlights activated, attempting to determine why the lights had suddenly died during a recording.
And he has the song "Turn Off the Lights," and he says, "LOL Cam, turn the lights off on them bum in there with flashlights."
That was not a coincidence. It was a demonstration. 50 Cent was showing the world that he had influence over the building's operations and that the podcast's lifeline ran through individuals who were now aligned with him. The power outage footage struck harder than the rent audio because it could not be disputed with numbers. When the landlord leak surfaced, Jones and the crew could claim the figures were exaggerated. They could contest the totals. But no one argues with a video of 4 podcast hosts stumbling through pitch darkness, relying on iPhone flashlights to see one another's faces. That footage did not merely embarrass them. It made them appear amateurish, running a makeshift operation from a building over which they had no genuine control. The podcast went silent. 3 weeks elapsed without a single new episode. No content, no updates, complete radio silence from a crew that was supposed to be building momentum. That 3-week blackout was the definitive indicator. A podcast lives and dies on consistency. The audience expects a new episode with the same regularity they expect their favorite television series to premiere. When the silence extended into week 2, then week 3, with no explanation and no content, the audience did not require 50 Cent's commentary to understand what was happening. They could see it plainly. The crew that had been generating the most noise on the internet could not even produce an episode. 50 Cent's pressure had effectively shut the operation down without a single direct confrontation. Then February 17th arrived. The termination notice expired. 48 hours later, the lights were dead, the locks had been replaced, and Jim Jones was in the hallway putting his foot through a door. The underlying question beneath all of this is, how did 50 Cent arrive at this position? How does an individual with no apparent connection to a Bronx commercial lease end up wielding this degree of leverage over what transpires inside it? The answer is rooted in 2007 and in a calculated maneuver that revealed exactly the kind of strategic thinking 50 Cent has always employed. Strip away the surveillance footage, the eviction notices, the landlord audio. Travel all the way back to 2007 and you find the same strategic DNA running through everything 50 Cent executed in 2026. That year, 50 Cent and Cameron were engaged in a genuine New York rap war. It ignited when 50 Cent appeared on Angie Martinez's Hot 97 program and characterized Coke Records, the label sheltering Cameron and the rest of Dipset, as a graveyard for washed-up artists. Cameron called in heated. Diss records were released on both sides. The streets and the blogs were locked in. In the middle of all that tension, 50 Cent executed 2 moves involving Jim Jones and Juelz Santana, and neither involved a microphone. First move, he brought Jim Jones onto BT's Rap City as a guest while 50 was co-hosting. Jones sat with the G-Unit crew on camera and directly told the audience that G-Unit was one of the few movements that I do respect. While Cameron was at war with G-Unit, his own affiliate was on BT endorsing them. Second move, 50 Cent brought Jim Jones and Juelz Santana out as surprise guests on stage at a live concert in New York. Both men performed alongside G-Unit before a packed crowd. Within the Dipset camp, that was regarded as outright betrayal. Years later, Cameron sat down with 50 Cent on the Talk with Flea YouTube show and articulated what that move had cost him. He explained that Dipset was already fracturing internally, drama that no one on the outside was aware of. So when Jones and Santana took that stage alongside the opposition, it did not merely look damaging, it accelerated the dissolution of everything. Cameron described it as a checkmate moment and acknowledged that he had to respect the diabolical nature of the strategy, even while absorbing the loss. 50 Cent confirmed it was entirely calculated, straightforward art of war tactics designed to fracture Dipset from within by drawing key members into G-Unit's orbit while the crew was already showing cracks.
Fifth is the only I know that when you cross it, if it takes 1 year, 10 years, 20 years, 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 2.5 years, he still delivers. He doesn't give a.
Academics articulated it most clearly. 2007 and 2026 represent the same strategic play. Same mind, same patience, different weapon. In 2007, the weapon was a concert appearance and a BET cosign. In 2025 and 2026, the weapon was a landlord named Sam.
Dirty 50 plays. 50 knows you is broken. So 50 is now enticed the goddamn owner of the property.
What 2007 also illuminates is that Jim Jones has consistently been the vulnerable link in any crew he affiliates with. He was the one who sat with G-Unit on BT. He was the one who performed on stage alongside the opposition. Not Cameron, not Juelz, Jones. That history means that every time 50 Cent needs to apply pressure to Jones publicly, the receipts from 2007 are already loaded and ready. Jones cannot invoke loyalty as a defense because the documented record shows him choosing the opposing side when the pressure intensified. 50 Cent understands this and leverages it accordingly. The pattern does not conclude in 2007. It extends throughout 50 Cent's entire career, including the moments where it appeared he was the one absorbing the loss. In 2015, he was confronting a $17 million arbitration judgment from Sleek Audio and a $5 million privacy judgment from Lastonia Leviston. Simultaneously, he filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The media characterized it as a fall from grace. But Chapter 11 is a reorganization, not a liquidation. He structured a payment plan totaling approximately $23 million spread across 5 years and emerged from the process intact. While the case was active, he was posting photographs on Instagram surrounded by stacks of cash. Observers assumed he was provoking the judge. He addressed it straightforwardly during an appearance on Conan.
Conan, my audience doesn't understand the difference between Chapter 11 and Chapter 7.
Yeah.
When you file Chapter 11, you just really reorganize.
You're reorganizing your
it's
business.
He emerged from the bankruptcy and showed no signs of deceleration. By 2026, he had secured a $124 million commitment to construct a film and entertainment complex in Shreveport, Louisiana, utilizing his own assets as backing. That Shreveport development is significant because it reveals where 50 Cent actually operates mentally. While he is posting Jim Jones eviction notices on social media, he is not emotionally invested in a Bronx podcast dispute. He is constructing 9-figure film infrastructure in Louisiana and simultaneously expanding a media empire. The Jim Jones situation is not his primary endeavor, it is a peripheral project he manages between boardroom meetings. That disparity in operational scale is precisely what renders the entire dynamic so asymmetrical. Jones is fighting for a studio he cannot afford to pay rent on. 50 Cent is literally constructing studios as a professional enterprise. This is the individual Jim Jones chose to disparage on a podcast. And when 50 Cent responded, he did not merely address the surface-level conflict. He reached inside the building itself and seized the keys. February 20th, 2026. One day after releasing the door-kicking surveillance footage to the entire internet, 50 Cent revealed his next card. He posted a photograph with Sam, the building owner himself, standing beside 50 Cent, appearing entirely at ease. And 50 Cent communicated to the world precisely what that photograph signified. Caption: "Sam is my partner. I own the joint. Now you're going to fix every door you kicked or I'm going to kick Jimmy. By Monday, you're destroying my property." No deed, no LLC documentation surfaced publicly, no closing document circulated, but 50 Cent did not present this as speculation or a possibility. He presented it as a fait accompli, effective immediately. The door-kicking footage was no longer merely an embarrassing viral moment. It was now property damage committed against 50 Cent's investment. Jim Jones had transitioned from locked-out tenant to an individual who owed 50 Cent a new door by Monday. The escalation was complete.
50 has said he's gonna beat y'all up. I ain't say it. Says it right here. He posted your landlord. Yo, 50's.
50 Cent had progressed from posting receipts on Instagram to positioning himself as the authority over the physical space where the podcast operated. He was no longer a participant in the dispute commenting from the outside. He was, by his own declaration, the landlord's partner, seated at the table where decisions about that building were made.
Your landlord is bullying you on behalf of 50 Cent. All the tough talk y'all got, y'all ain't pulling up on the landlord.
Academics distilled it in terms the streets could immediately comprehend.
His whole goal is not to make money off real estate. It's with 4 niggas that's on a podcast that literally, if they just moved out and went to somewhere else, 50 can't affect him anymore.
This was never about property investment. It was about confining Jim Jones within a situation he could not exit without publicly conceding defeat. The building was the cage, and 50 Cent had just claimed the key. The truly calculated dimension of the ownership announcement is that it shifted the burden of proof onto Jim Jones without Jones possessing any means to address it in real time. Before the photograph with Sam, Jones had a landlord dispute, a legal matter between tenant and property owner, the kind of issue resolved in housing court. The moment 50 Cent posted that image and declared, "I own the joint," Jones was suddenly required to demonstrate that 50 Cent did not hold a legitimate stake in the building. And that is not a claim one can litigate on Instagram. One cannot counter a property partnership assertion with a kung fu video and a caption about capitalizing on free publicity. Jim Jones's response, however, was precisely that: kung fu videos. He posted clips of himself training on a practice dummy, referencing the 1985 film The Last Dragon. He captioned them, "Kung Fu Jim is what they call him," dismissed the notion of locked doors, and stated he was trying to figure out what I need to promo while I got the spotlight again. Mano stepped forward as the spokesperson and pursued a factual approach. He appeared on Angela Yee's Way Up and presented the counterargument. The lease was a 5-year agreement. The crew bore no personal liability for rent. That responsibility rested with the LLC. The eviction had never proceeded through proper legal channels. No court order, no marshal, no sheriff. He asserted that the landlord had illegally changed the locks. Police were called, and the landlord was ultimately escorted out by officers while the crew regained access. He characterized the entire situation as fabricated and conducted a walkthrough on camera to demonstrate that the studio remained operational. Mano's walkthrough represented the most grounded countermove the crew assembled during the entire ordeal. He appeared inside the building on video, pointed to the equipment, and proved the podcast had not been permanently shuttered. But here is where it fell short. A studio walkthrough proves one has access to a building. It does not undo the image of one's landlord photographed alongside one's adversary, smiling. It does not erase the surveillance footage of one's co-host kicking doors in at 2 o'clock in the morning. Mano won the legal argument on camera. He lost the internet argument before he even began speaking.
We got 50 who is commenting on, and he's still trolling Jim Jones. By the way, I guess we should probably start with Jim Jones.
The public narrative was already established and sealed, but 50 Cent was not finished adding to it. Because while the property conflict was unfolding in real time, he was engineering a creative weapon that would reach into Jim Jones's past and invoke a name that carries more weight than any lease document ever could. March 7, 2026. 50 Cent recorded a verse over Max B's track No More Tricks from his 2024 project Public Domain, retitled it No More Tricks, No More Tries, and released a new verse over the instrumental. Dame Grease handled the production. No features, just 50 Cent addressing the entire podcast crew. Jim Jones, Mano, Fabulous, and Dave East, each named explicitly on record. 3 days later, on March 10th, 50 Cent unveiled a fully AI-generated music video for the track, produced by content creator A Man of One Mind. The visual depicted 50 and Max B riding through New York City streets, with animated sequences targeting all 4 co-hosts. Jim Jones was placed in what appeared to be an interrogation room, timed precisely to the lyric referencing snitching. That visual was not arbitrary. It was a deliberate callback to the most persistent accusation in Jim Jones's career, one that has followed him through 3 separate incidents. The first incident occurred in September 2019 during Tekashi 6ix9ine INE's federal racketeering trial in Manhattan. 6ix9ine took the stand and testified that Jim Jones was a member of the 9 Trey Bloods. Prosecutors subsequently played a wiretapped phone call from November 2018 in which Jones and an alleged 9 Trey leader discussed retaliatory measures against 6ix9ine for publicly identifying gang members. Jones was neither charged nor arrested. The wiretap was entered as evidence against the actual defendants in the case, not against Jones. However, 50 Cent archived that footage and has been deploying it ever since, framing Jones's presence on the recording as implicit cooperation. The second accusation surfaced in May 2024. Video emerged of Jim Jones involved in a physical altercation at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. Following the incident, Jones spoke with responding officers and described what had occurred. WAC 100 subsequently posted the footage on Instagram and labeled Jones a rat for communicating with law enforcement, characterizing it as telling, as snitching on record. Jones denied the characterization, maintaining that describing an assault to police when one is the victim does not constitute snitching. No charges resulted from the incident for any party involved. The third set of allegations runs deeper and extends further back. connected to long-standing rumors within the Dipset camp surrounding Max B's 2009 arrest and the subsequent conviction on robbery and murder charges. Cameron offered hints during interviews suggesting that Jones had involvement in events surrounding Max B's legal predicament. Max B himself has addressed related topics from prison, but no court records, no official filings, and no documented evidence has ever connected Jim Jones to that case. Jones has never been questioned or charged in relation to any of it. Here is the critical point regarding all three of those situations: the 6ix9ine trial, the airport footage, and the Max B rumors. It is irrelevant whether any of them would withstand courtroom scrutiny. What matters is that they are all discoverable, searchable, and documented somewhere on the internet. And every time 50 Cent wishes to remind the culture of their existence, he does not need to utter a single word. He simply places Max B in a music video. He positions Jones in an interrogation room within an animated disc clip. He allows the association to communicate on his behalf, and the audience fills in every gap independently. And there was Max B, featured in a 50 Cent AI video in March 2026, the visual aimed directly at Jim Jones. That casting decision was a precision strike. Max B's presence in that video was not merely a feature. It was a reference. It was a reminder to every viewer that the snitching allegations attached to Jim Jones's name have never dissipated, and that 50 Cent has no intention of allowing them to. 50 Cent captioned the post, "I am the algorithm." Consider that caption carefully. He is not claiming to be the most formidable rapper. He is not debating lyrical ability or technical skill. He is asserting that he controls how information circulates, how narratives are constructed, how reputations are dismantled, and who the internet remembers as the winner. In 2026, that represents more power than a hit record.
Hundreds of millions of dollars. So the one or two or three just to get a point across and keep that image and aura of I'm 50, I annihilate everyone, I think he'll do it.
The AI video also served as a demonstration of resources that Jones could not rival on any level. 50 Cent did not require a director, a location scout, a physical set, a production crew, or a single day of shooting. He commissioned a fully animated, fully produced disc video that proliferated across every hip-hop platform within 24 hours, at a fraction of what a traditional music video costs. While Jim Jones was posting phone-recorded kung fu clips as his rebuttal, 50 Cent was utilizing artificial intelligence to construct a cinematic dismantling of the entire crew. The distance between what each man had access to, technically, financially, and creatively, was visible in every single frame of that video. Jim Jones criticized 50 Cent's Netflix documentary in December 2025 and dismissed it as a mockumentary. By March 2026, 50 Cent had exposed his unpaid rent, posted his government name on eviction paperwork for the internet to screenshot, partnered with his landlord, broadcast his door-kicking moment to millions, and released an AI-assisted visual disc featuring the one name most likely to make Jones uncomfortable, all without trading a single punch, catching a single charge, or even raising his voice. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click on one of the boxes appearing on your screen to watch more similar content.